Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Jess Hilarious, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got some special legends in the building.
Man, come on now. This is a special one right here.
Legends of the building.
Come
of
on
course,
now.
the cast of Good Times. 50 years of Good Times. We got Michael, Thelma, and JJ.
Well, first of all, Ralph Carter, BernNadette, Stanis, and Jimmy Walker. That's right. All right.
Right.
Good morning, guys. How y'all feeling?
Good morning, Breakfast Club.
How y'all feeling, man? 50 years of Good Times?
Wow.
Wow.
I know. Wow.
Wow.
And we're still going strong.
Yeah.
Did y'all know Good Times was going to make the mark that it made?
Well, I didn't. No, I had no idea.
No, we didn't. But we're very grateful it did.
Yeah.
Thank you to the listeners. We
Our
appreciate
fans.
Well, for the beginning, let's start. How did it come about? How did Good Times come about? And how did you guys audition? And how did it make? Because during that time, there wasn't too many of us on television. So how did it come about?
Well,
And he is black. You know when he
No,
say
it
us.
I don't know.
Y'all know.
I can
I'm
tell
black.
he's black.
You know.
I'm black. They joke me all the time, but I'm black. But go ahead.
I don't know, Mr. Carter. Man.
Yeah.
Well, it started with me being in a beauty pageant, and from there was a manager watching me in the beauty pageant and gave my mother a card to say they're looking for a teenager to be in this show and meet Norman Lear at CBS, so we went up there. But there were thousands of girls when I opened the door. So, I mean, but that's how it started with me.
You was a teenager on Good Times?
Yeah,
How old was you?
18.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, Lord have mercy. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
You're still beautiful.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So, and then, after a couple of months, I thought I didn't get it, because I didn't hear back from them. And then I did get the call. My mom got the call that I was Thelma. And so they flew me out to California. That's how it happened for me.
Wow. What about you, Mr. Carter?
By the time I began to work with Norman Lear, I had been in my 6th Broadway play by that time. I met during my journey with Miss Jane Murray and also Pat Kirkland. These were 2 wonderful women who I auditioned for when I went there. However, I literally had the job before I got the job. My contract was bought from The Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry. We did the adept version of the musical play. By that time, I had won the Tony Award nomination that year in '74. However, as a result of that, Norman would consistently, he came more than twice to see my work and flew my mother and I out to the state of California. I was reluctant because they always said it never rains in California. And I was excited. It rained for 3 months when I got there.
Yeah,
So,
right.
right
Yes,
then and
it
there,
was.
any illusions about Hollywood were always neutralized as far as I'm concerned. So I'm very grateful to have not only worked with and still love Jimmy Walker and BernNadette, but we give respect to the spirit of Miss Esther Roll and to Jeanette
Yes,
Dubois
amen.
and to Johnny Brown, who played Bookman, to Helen Martin, who played Weeping Wanda. These are wonderful people that helped us along the way. Of course, to Mr. Ben Powers as well. Albert Reed, who played the Alderman. These are the people who accentuated what we did. Of course, we were working with the wonderful Debbie Allen and the work that she contributed to our production. So we thank you.
What about you, Mr. Walker?
Well, I'm just a hardcore stand-up. That's it. That's all I do. I'm just a stand-up to the core. So I was working the improv, me, David Brenner, Bette Midler, Pat Benatar, all of us together. We had a comedy team named Edmonds and Curly. They work all the time in those days. And they couldn't do the job. They were doing like 3 shows a day. They said, hey, man, we were supposed to do these warm-ups for this show called Lucci's Department. We can't make it. Do you want to take our place and do the warm-up thing? And I said, I don't even know what a warm-up is. Never heard of it. That kind of stuff like that. And they said, look, you go over there. It's like on 57th and 11th or 12th. You go over there and you do like a half hour. You tell people the show's about. And I said, I don't want to do it. They said, well, it's $800. I said, well, who do I have to kill? I'm in. I said, I'm in. So I went over there. I did the warm-up. And luckily, there was a few laughs in there. So everybody comes up after the show and they go, man, you are funny. You need to be on this show. You need to do this thing. I said, well, in those days, and I still believe this is this day, everybody lies. In this business, there's no truth at all. Everybody is something until you ask for something. They go, well, I was in charge of that, but now I'm not in charge of that. My friend is in charge. Everybody's a liar. So until my line, and I always say this, everybody is full of doo-doo until proven a complete a-hole. That's just, everybody lies. That's just it. Me, Freddie Prinze, David Brenner, Robert Klein, Richard Lewis, all the guys, we said, liars. So Pat Kirkland comes up and says, hey, we're doing this show in Los Angeles. Do you want to be on the show? I go, she's a liar, so you just go. I said, so you always say when people ask you to do something, say, oh yeah, I'm in, see you there. Anyway, so you'll never hear from them again, and everybody, women are liars, everybody's a liar. So that's it. So I said, yeah, I'll be in it. So the next week, I'm not even paying any attention. I go do the warm-ups. Luckily, I killed. So Norman Lear's there at that time. He says, hey, man, you are funny. Because I just did the Roland Martin show. They had called and do the Roland Martin thing. So he says, do you want to be on this show? I said, yeah. He says, we're going to send you a contract. So I knew he was a liar. So I said, look, don't even send the contract to my house. Send it to the Improv. So I'm not paying any attention. I'm going out. I'm doing my dates. I won this thing called a NAPTY thing. And a NAPTY thing is where you go do college tours and you compete against other people to do it. So they bring in a whole bunch of acts. So I was on the show. Edmonds and Curley again said, you need to do the NAPTY thing. I did the NAPTY thing. They said, you're going to do the region of the Midwest. You're going to do South Dakota, North Dakota, Iowa, that kind of stuff like that. And if you win it, you could get a whole thing. So I came in second because you get a whole bunch of colleges. I came in second. The winner was B.B. King. He won 150 dates. I won 90 dates.
B.B. King.
Wow. Yeah, B.B. King was the winner.
Wow.
So we were out doing dates, and, you know, I'm just bouncing around. So I get a call from J.D. Joe. I'm in Fargo, North Dakota, doing dates. And Edmund Cody said, these people have never seen a black person in their lives. You'll kill on this thing. So luckily, I was killing on the thing. And J.D. Joe says, well, where are you? I said, I'm in Fargo, North Dakota. She says, you belong in Los Angeles. I said, I know I belong in Los Angeles, but I have no reason to be there. So they said, no, we sent you a ticket to the Improv. So I wasn't in New York at the time, so I never got the ticket.
Los Angeles.
I was on the road doing my thing. So she says, look, get on a plane. We have a ticket waiting for you in Fargo. I thought she was a liar. So what I said
Have you
was,
always been so optimistic?
yes, positive. People have lied. They lie. Women lie. They lie. It's just a constant thing. It's just.
Why you got the part?
I don't know.
So
Everybody
then-
lies and is sold to Jimmy.
So then I go to Los Angeles. My man Steve Landsberg is on the show. You guys don't even remember this guy. It's the Bobby Darin show. He was a day player on the Bobby Darin show. So I said, hey, Landsberg, Chalkman. I used to call him Chalkman because he had all this white stuff that he used to do in his act. I said, Chalkman, we got to do some shows while we're out here. So I went to the Comedy Store. I'm doing shows. I go back to bed at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Get a call. J.D. Joe. She says, where are you? I said, I'm in my bed sleeping. She says, well, you belong across the street. We're doing rehearsals. I said, rehearsal for what? She says, there's a show called Good Times. You signed on to the show. I had signed on to it at the
But you
Improv.
didn't believe him.
Yeah, because I didn't believe him because he's a liar. So
Was this a verbal contract then?
No, they had a contract. Kenny the Drunk, who was a lawyer, was at the bar. I said, Kenny, is this any good? He said, yeah, I think so. Sign it. I'll send it back for you. And I said, Kenny's a drunk. He's not going to send it. He's a liar. He's not going to send it. So then he sent it back. So I was on the show. And I had no idea.
You signed the contract from a drunk man at a bar?
Yeah,
Who you
Kenny
knew
the
was
Drunk.
lying.
He was my man.
And you knew he was a liar.
Yeah, he's a
You made
liar.
$5.
Yeah,
The
so,
whole time.
so Kenny signed me up for it. So I was in. So I go to the rehearsal, and there's a whole bunch of people there at the rehearsal because I didn't even know we had a script. Because they said there's a script downstairs. I said, I'm going back to bed because I'm not going downstairs to get a script because they're lying. I don't have time.
But you're there.
So I went, I got the script, and I looked at it, and I'm sitting next to Norman Lear. I didn't know who Norman Lear was because we were always working at that time. You know, if you're a nightclub comic, you know, I'm following Robert Klein, I'm following Steve Martin. I'm worried about holding my spot at the Improv. That's tough enough. You know, that's a battle. You know, Robert Klein's there, Bet singing songs. We got Pat Benatar singing songs. I said, I better have my little act together to hang in there because it's a fight for the spots to get on.
Yeah.
So I go and I'm reading the script and I'm sitting next to Norman and I said, huh?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay.
And I'm reading the script and I said to the guy next to me, like you're Norman Lee, I said, man, this sucks. What is this?
God damn.
I said, he said, we're going to do a TV show. I said, really? I said, you're a liar. It's not going to happen. This is terrible. So now we finished the rehearsal, and Norman Lear and Alan Manning, who's our producer, comes up and says, hey, you know, we know you have some problems with the script. You can't be blasting out loud about how people stink. You have to, like, bring it down a little bit. So as a comic, people tell you how bad you stink all the time. Yeah. People always go, you suck, you're a piece of garbage, you're no good at all. And you finish, and there's always that couple of people that go, we love you here. But then when you go out, you know, we had Andy Kaufman, and Andy Kaufman's one of those guys, you stink. So it's that kind of thing, you just have to keep going. And so from then on, we did the show, and I was always throwing stuff in, and people got upset.
So when did you stop thinking people was liars?
Never. I think it now. People, I mean, agents are liars. They're all liars. No, very few people want to be bigger than what they are. And the big people, you never meet them.
Yeah.
They're in the big glass tower upstairs on the 90th floor. So, you know, even if, like BernNadette will tell you, even if I meet a girl, I said, give me your number. I know she's lying because she's not going to give you the number. And then with the horrible things with the cell phones, they don't answer. You text them, you email them, they sit in their room and they sit with their girlfriends and they start laughing. They go, this moron I met at Walmart, he asked for my number. I was busy. I gave him my number because I know I'm never going to talk to him or answer his emails ever
But he
again.
did get lucky this week.
Yeah,
he did. He got
Once
lucky.
in a while, somebody will come through, but very, very rarely. And the girl will be nice, and some girls will go. And I learned this from a friend of mine who happens to be a girl, and she said a very interesting thing. She said, you know, if you want to get rid of a guy and he asks you to go out, say, you know, like if she's a girl, I ask you to go out, I say, what is your name, sweetheart?
Jess.
Jess. I say, hey, Jess, you know, why don't we, you know, go to the Four Seasons and have dinner? Just start laughing. Go ahead. That's what they do. They go ahead and say, are you serious? Really?
But you got lucky this week.
No, it wasn't lucky yet. But it was a girl that showed promise.
Oh, she answered.
She answered, and I was like, really? And sometimes you're so stunned.
And then one called you.
One did call back. I was stunned.
How many times do you give your number out to these women?
All the time.
You get.
All the
I'm
time.
available. Anybody, but see, they and I've said to girls, hey, let's go on a cruise together, and they just go.
What age are these women that you hollered at?
Take them to the town, join the cruise, man.
They just go.
What age are they? What age are you?
They're adults.
Yeah.
They're adults.
What's an adult?
And they just start laughing? Like they don't say yes or no?
No, they just start laughing. They just go, you know, I hear my toast popping up. I have to go.
No.
So there's no honest woman. And then the phrase I always hate to hear, you know, I'm a single mom. And you just go, okay, I got it. You know, I can't be worried about that. Or, you know what happened? I met him
We
when I
ain't
was
here to do no love connection for Mr. Jimmy Walker
That's
now.
right.
We here to talk about
So, but anyway,
We
go
here to
ahead.
talk about good times.
Go ahead. Talk about the shit.
So that's how you got. It started from how you got good times. That's how you got good times.
That's what I just said. How I got it.
Miss BernNadette,
But
y'all been dealing with
I've
this
never,
for 50 years?
I've never
then some.
I've never auditioned for any show ever.
Oh, that's amazing.
I've never auditioned for a show
tolerate
ever.
him.
You tolerate him?
I've never auditioned. I never tried out.
How do you tolerate him? Because this
Just like I'm doing now.
24/7.
Just like I'm doing now.
I know he's mushy.
They've
He
never
got a
asked
heart
me
of
to do
gold.
anything.
I do know
Usually-
that.
Usually people just see my
There's a
act and they go,
conversation going
let's
on.
hire this guy.
Yeah.
Like,
And we know how to do that too.
Yeah.
We let them go.
How much of y'all real lives did you implement in these characters? You know, especially you, Mr. Carter, because Michael was like one of the most pro-black figures that early on we ever saw.
Well,
on
I'm
TV.
originally from Brooklyn. BernNadette and I both from Brownsville. Giving out shout out to Brownsville. Grafton Street between
Brownsville,
Dumont and Blake. That's where I used to live when I was growing up in the heart of Brooklyn. However, my point is that by virtue of the fact that I grew up in an African-American church, one of the most memorable productions we ever did on Good Times was when we had the Black Jesus. However, what happened in my case is that I physically grew up with like the wonderful images in this fantastic sound room. That I grew up with people who look like that on the walls of my church. So it was almost a form of symbiosis when the Good Times parallel came up with how I was able to see that. But due to the fact that we were able to locate in the verses of the Bible the example that is used, hair of wool, skin of bronze. They ain't like me in Mississippi, in Alabama, and Georgia. You know, I was a kid, but I got some unkind mail. But I was absolved from all of that by just taking myself to another level and not deal with the riffraff.
I love the episode when you broke down that mama boy is a white racist word.
And it still is.
That's right.
It has. It's what I love about what we've done together as a team is that I'd rather be relevant than a relic. And because of the fact that people are genuinely very kind to us, I know from my personal experience, we're bombarded with positive energy. So I believe as a human being, it's very difficult to be negative when you're always being given good energy from the people that we meet. And I'm personally indebted to the people who viewed our work, the people who continue to like our work, and all I can say is thank you. We respect that.
How much of Thelma was you, Miss BernNadette?
Oh, with me, a lot of my character was, the way I was. I grew up in a family, there are 5 children. I'm the eldest, and a mom and a dad. And so, my father would always say, even though it was in the projects, he'd always say, what's around you does not have to be in you. And that's kind of how we were. So I knew my character, and that young girls in the projects do grow up to become someone. I strive to be the good girl, and, the positive person. So very much so. The character was very much like who I was then.
But BernNadette consistently has always has high standards, and she has never belittled herself in that context.
Thank you.
What about you, Mr. Walker? How much of you was JJ?
well, you got to remember, I'm a comic, so
That's
we just sit around and all we do is jokes. That's it. It's
Yes.
just jokes every day, every hour, every battle, every whatever. That's all we do. And at that time, Johnny Carson was it. So our main goal in life was to get on the Johnny Carson show, because if you get on the Johnny Carson show, the next day you can draw. And that's the key thing. You must be able to draw, put tushies in the seats. I don't care how great you think you are, what you are. It's like now with Netflix. Your goal in life, nothing else counts. Mom, dad, family, get on Netflix and take your shot. So in terms of my thing of being on the show, I wanted to get on Johnny Carson. I didn't want to do anything else. So you just wrote jokes all day.
Wow. How did you feel when, Esther Rowley and John Amos, they said they used to criticize your character, saying it was a poor role model for black teenagers back then?
Well, at that time, I was not really aware of it. You got to remember, we didn't have media like we had now. And with our cast, for me, I didn't really, it's going to sound strange. I never watched the show. I never really, John is a great actor. He's probably one of the best black actors in America, and best actor in general. I didn't really talk to John, so I didn't really know him. And Esther, I don't think I've ever, BernNadette was very close with Esther. Very, very, very close. I don't think I ever said a word to Esther, because being in a comedy lineup of like 30 guys, you don't, and girls too, you don't really, there's people you just, you never talk to. I mean, you know, there's people you talk to all the time, and then maybe you may talk to 10 guys all the time, and there's another 10 guys you never talk to at all. You don't know them. You see them, and you just. So I'm used to not mingling with some guys. That's it. That's the reality of it all.
I was going to ask, after Good Times, was it difficult to get other parts in movies and sitcoms and things like that? Because people look at you as characters of Good Times. Like when I see you, I still see Michael. Like I still see Delma. I still see JJ.
Yeah.
And I was a kid. Like when I was coming up, there was only, I think at the time it was your show and what's his name?
Jefferson?
No, before
Sanford and
Jefferson's. Sanford and Son.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
the only two
Yeah.
that I would see blacks on
Right,
television.
right.
So was it difficult after that?
No, as a matter of fact, my transition, once I finished Good Times, I still had to complete high school. So after I did my works in high school, I
You went back to high school.
I completed. I graduated on June 6, 1979, which was a Friday, along with my colleague Lawrence Fishburne. We were in the 9th grade together, and we went all through that part of our education together as brothers.
Wow.
My point being that once I completed the work in Good Times, I was also invited to the wonderful nation of Nigeria. And at that time, I couldn't wait to get to West Africa. The point being that I grew up in an Afrocentric consciousness. And due to men like Jimmy Walker, he's one of the most well-read men I've ever met. So he became a blueprint for me as far as wanting to know information. I figure if I love and respect the history of not just Africa, but the global experience, because, you know, everybody here is human. We belong here, you know. If you ain't come on earth to do your thing, then what you come here for? If you ain't come here to be the best you can while you're here, then what you come here for?
That's right.
So my point is that I wanted to make it, and I did make it my business to read as many books that related to my particular subject matter. I originally went to Los Angeles Community College in my early years and majored in poetry there. Then from there I moved to meet up with a man named Dr. John Henry Clark, who became my primary mentor. Through him, I met other phenomenal historians like Joseph Van Yaken and Dr. Ivan Van Sertimer, the brilliance of Amos Wilson, who wrote just quintessential books that helped to heal our people, because in this culture we've all been wounded, and we're still in the process of repairing ourselves. But we must understand this time around, ain't nobody coming to our rescue. Therefore, you must rescue yourself.
That's right. So you brought all the energy to Michael, because there ain't no white people can write that character. You
Well,
brought all that.
I'm very grateful to men like Eric Monty and Michael Evans, due to the fact that Eric is in Chicago, from Cabrini Green. One of the highlights of working on the show was that consecutively for 3 years, due to the genius of Esther Roll, she asked us to join and participate in the Bud Billiken Day Parade, which is very popular in Chicago. But also there were people who lived in Cabrini Green who knew that BernNadette, myself, Jeanette Dubois, Esther, of course, were coming in advance. And these were times when John, bless my father's heart, because he is one of the people on Good Times that I worked long before I ever worked on that production. But my point is that some of the residents in those wonderful complexes, they physically invited us to have dinner with us. I'm talking delicious food, but the camaraderie was there. So I think it helped us to be authentic, because during the time I worked on Good Times, I never saw the show. I was forbidden to watch the show. John Amos and Esther Roll told my mother Lucille, who fortunately lived to be 97, and she would be 101 this year. But my point is that my mother kept me grounded and listened to what Esther Roll and John Amos told her to do. Don't let them watch the show, due to the fact that sometimes children tend to imitate themselves. So they wanted me to stay as authentic and as organic as possible. So I didn't really understand the bombardment of people at that time, you know, coming after me. For years I stopped wearing jewelry because people thought they had the privilege or the right to snatch it off of me. I was like, yo, man, you know, this is a $90 shirt in 1970s, and you just ripped my shirt, bitch. Where's your problem?
You just ripped my shirt,
You
bitch.
know, so with that said, it also is a very humbling experience, because ultimately, any way you look at it, you just got to treat people the way you want to be treated. And that is my personal philosophy.
What was stardom like back then, Miss BernNadette? Like in that era?
Well, back then it wasn't that many black stars there. So it was just like a handful of us, and Red Fox, Richard Pryor, those kind of people, and they would have parties or whatever, and they would invite just a handful who was there. But other than that, it wasn't a lot of us there. Yeah, so it was kind of empty in a way.
How was it when you did the cover of Jet magazine?
Oh, Ike Sutton took a picture. He was a friend of mine, and he's invited me over to eat. He would cook like 8-course meals for me. I mean, just me. I'm like, come on, Ike. So then we take the pictures. Right?
I remember Ike.
And so, it was just Jane Kennedy then and me and people like that. So he just said he wanted to do a cover for me, and he did it, and I was on the cover.
Wow. That's different, though.
Yeah.
You on the cover of Jet magazine back then?
Yeah. And also one inside the week.
The centerfold. We Spec
one,
Photo.
Yeah. I did that one too.
And you knew
remember?
you were popular when you black and you on the cover of Ebony and Jet.
Yeah.
I said, oh, Lord, I know we on a lot of other magazines, but when you're received by your own people, it has a different type of connection. And I say that because of the fact that who would have thought that we was going to be on the covers of those? And regardless of maybe the topics that they were talking about, we still were well received by the people. And there is no show without the people to participate with us. So we thank them.
What was the most difficult episode to shoot?
For me, it was actually the contradiction of a character came to the show in the script where it was a Caucasian young woman who I was supposed to have an on-screen kiss with. Right then and then, my antenna went up because it would destroy everything I had built with that particular character as far as his pro-Pan-Africanism is.
Dr. Umar would love you for that. I remember that episode.
Yeah. So what I did do, I took my grievances to the adults. Keep in mind, Janet Jackson and I are still minors. So therefore, any type of script issues that we had, Jimmy was always and has been my advocate, along with BernNadette, and I brought my issue to them. And Esther said, this cannot happen. You can't do this for this particular character because it will, mostly all of the young African-American women would have said, wow, here we go again. So I decided to just pull back, and it worked out in my favor, and that didn't happen.
Wow.
Is that the episode that ended up being when you were supposed to move in?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
okay,
right.
okay.
But we had to change that script because they had an intimate moment, which again would have contradicted the policies and the integrity of the character that I played.
Absolutely. I always wondered because I was when I found out that people they didn't like the JJ character, I was like, I never looked at y'all as ignorant. Like I didn't think that y'all was reinforcing any stereotypes. How were y'all able to portray being from the hood but not come off as ignorant?
Well, a lot of people in the hood are not ignorant
at
all.
Right.
And I looked at Jimmy's character as like very, very intelligent, an artist and everything like that. And sometimes in a family, there's always one kid that makes the family laugh. I mean, I had a brother who's a pastor now, Kyle, and he used to make my mom laugh. Do silly things, but I mean that's just something that lifts a spirit. That's all it is, and that's how I saw Jimmy. I didn't see him as a character that no one liked it. And I in Esther Rolle's defense, I would say that she just didn't want them to make him a thief or a fool. Like but she loved the character too, but she didn't want the writers or anybody to make him look like that, like with the little hat or whatever. And in the beginning, they always had Jimmy finding something. You understand? So finding is stealing. And she cut that out. I don't want that.
So like finding drugs.
Yeah, finding. And I just found this pen, or I just found this shirt. You know what I'm saying?
Find was the metaphor that was used for
so
that.
she said no, she didn't want that. So those are the things that they harped on, like she didn't like the character, but she of course they did.
I just wonder when did Hollywood take a turn? Because it feel like, back then y'all always had a hand in the creative. Y'all always had a hand in how y'all were portrayed. So when did Hollywood take the turn to where it's just like all of these negative stereotypes of black people just started?
Well,
I think because a different breed of producers came through that weren't in contact and in touch with the people.
Yeah.
And when you disconnect yourself from the people, then you become in a box. And one thing I work with myself is like the only opinion about me that matters is my own. And therefore, by not allowing myself to be in a box, I was able to take my work to another level. And being a historian in the context of the work that I did, I not only wanted to study the history of Africa, but I wanted to understand how valuable the contributions of people globally has been. You know, my ancestors have been here since 1799. And my great ancestor, she was kidnapped from Cameroon, sold on the Charleston auction block on December 17th, 1799. And as a consequence of that, I wanted to study as much as I could because it used to be against the law for people of color to read in this country. So I made it my business to read as much as I can. Just for the record, brother man, I've read both your books.
Thank you, sir.
And you are an excellent writer.
Thank
I
you,
got a lot of information on your journey, you know, and to the way you gave the salutations to your mother, Julia, and to your father, Larry.
Yes, sir.
It was a wonderful experience.
Thank you.
Thank you. I always wanted to tell you that to your face.
Thank you, brother. I got a new one coming out. I'm going to give it to you before you leave. It comes out May 21st.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay,
That's
my birthday
wonderful.
coming up. Where's my gift?
I got you.
I bought yours at Barnes and Noble, by the way.
Appreciate
Now
that.
you mentioned Janet, so how was working with Janet on the set? How was that?
For me, it was refreshing because for
You straightened your back out when you said that.
yeah,
just now. I saw you.
for many years I was the only child on set. Therefore, that type of isolation, it didn't affect me because every time we went on hiatus, I always came back to New York and to Brooklyn, and I was with my peer group. So I fundamentally didn't have an offbeat energy as whatever a child star means. And also I was never financially exploited by my family. That was not my experience. In my experience, no one ever put an offending hand on me. You know, I'm from Brooklyn, I jack you up. But what I did learn in that process of working with Janet, who was beyond a consummate professional, but she's a brilliant observer. And she watched because we spent the most time together, y'all. And in California state law, we have to go to school for 3 hours before we can appear on set. So our actual working day after the 3 hours of school would be a 5-hour working day. So we had tutors who protected us. My mother, Mrs. Lucille Carter, and Mrs. Catherine Jackson, they got along like peas in a pod. And because of the fact that our parents got along, and this would apply to Haywood Nelson and Lawrence Fishburne, myself, our mothers got along. Therefore, we got along too. So in that context, my job was to, because I'm BernNadette's bully. Anybody step to her incorrectly, there's going to be an issue. And I was able to, because of that loneliness, Janet was like a beacon of light when she came on the set. And I still am so proud of what she has done in the work that she continues to do.
I want to go back and ask Ms. BernNadette about the direction of Hollywood and how it went another direction.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I just want to say that Esther Roll was an advocate for all of us. And I remember there was a week that we had, and I actually had really nothing much to say. It was like, you know, hi, Mom, hi, Dad. I was in the bathroom, shut up, JJ. That's about it. You know, the character had nothing. So I was very bored that week. And I said, this cannot go on. I can't sit here every week and just be this bored. So I asked Mom, I used to call her Mom, say, Mom, you know, I was so bored this week. She said, what do you mean? I said, I just did nothing. I just sat there and I was bored. So she says, well, what do you want to do? I said, I need more to say. I need something, character. So she said, let me handle it. And we had a reading at the round table, and that week I had my 2 or 3 little lines, okay? And so Esther said at the end of the reading, she asked the producers and the writers, she says, I want to ask a question. And they said, sure, Esther, what is it? You know, what is it? She said, I want to ask, are you ashamed of my daughter? And they said, no. And she said, then she went on to say, you know, well, I think that we should do a little better with her. I think that we have my son JJ who has a lot to say, and my son Michael who has a lot to say, and I want my daughter to have a voice. And she said to me, and they said, oh, certainly. And so that afternoon, she said, you go up there and you tell them who Thelma is. Now, how can you develop a character? I mean, you know what I'm saying? You're telling the character to develop a character. So I knew who she was. So I ended up going up there and telling them what I'd like her to be, who I need her to be. And after that, the scripts came, you know, the dialogue came, you know, a voice became. And I give her all the credit for doing that. People don't really fight for people anymore like that. So she did. And that's how, you know, she gave Thelma a voice.
Wow.
Yeah, I love
Salute
that.
to Esther Rose.
Yeah, absolutely.
And where them white people like Norman Lear at? Where they at in Hollywood now?
He passed away this
I know
year.
he passed away, but I'm saying, where are those type of people?
Well, they're no more.
They're a rare breed,
No
believe
more.
me, Charlamagne.
I
They,
mean, yeah.
When they did kick, they were really good, you know, because for me, in the context of history, you would not really have had a good times if you didn't have an Amos and Andy. And Amos and Andy was also a product of the television station CBS. However, when I did my research and bought the catalog of that particular show, it was hilarious. The men and women who performed on Amos and Andy, we're speaking of veteran actors who had done vaudeville. And the so-called chitlin circuit, as Jimmy Walker really knows all about that. You know, he's been on the chitlin circuit so long, he was cleaning the chitlin. So, but my point is that we were able to embrace, through the genius of Norman Lear, because keep in mind, Norman Lear was a magnet in the respect that he had All in the Family, Maude, the Jeffersons, Good Times, the adjunct along with Bud Yorkin. They also had What's Happening, in which you had the works of Haywood Nelson, Fred Berry, of course, Miss Shirley Hemphill, and their wonderful cast of Danielle Spencer. Mabel King, of course, played the mother.
And Ernest
But my
Thomas.
point is that there was a connection and a bond that we, even on set, had. We cross-referenced with the wonderful people on All in the Family, with Gene Stapleton and Carol O'Connor. And we weekly saw Beatrice Arthur and Bill Macy while they were doing the works on Maude. So because of the work that Esther did, that allowed us as artists to get a gig. But Esther, to me, is the foundation of Good Times, along with John Amos.
Absolutely.
Mr. Jimmy, did you ever get tired of saying dynamite at any point?
I don't think we ever did it that much.
Yeah.
No, because again, being a stand-up, people came to see stand-up, you know, and at the Improv or the store or anything like that. And again, I guess we were in such competition, and plus we had Paul Mooney.
Yeah.
And Paul Mooney straightened everybody out.
Too black, too strong.
Mooney would just say, man, your stuff is weak. What are you doing? You stink. And I remember, like, we'd have somebody like a Gary Shandling who worked so hard. I was like, that's what made me get writers to help me out, because he would have 2 notebooks full of jokes every day. And you just go, hey, how's this guy doing this? So in terms of the dynamite thing, it didn't play in a club. You know, we had Freddie Prinze, who always said, I am the funniest. I am the best. You guys stink. I'm great. I'm the youngest and I'm the baddest. I'm 18. You guys will never be as good as me. You'll never be as funny as me. Don't even try it. And then you had Gary Shandling, who said quietly, I'm the best writer out of everybody. I will eventually have my own show. None of you will be as big as me. That's the way it is. Because he had a shot to do the Johnny Carson show. And he said, I don't want to be encumbered by network. I'm going to have my own show where I'm in charge, and which he did with the Larry Sanders Show, and it's the Gary Shandling Show. He was completely in charge. He said, I will never do a network show that I have to listen to other people. So for me, the dynamite thing was like not relevant to the people that were coming to the show. I mean, you know, and plus I was the MC for our ethnic shows. So we would do the Chicago show. Chicago show would be the Emotions, the Shy Lights, Jerry Butler. So they weren't even for that, because they were kind of like, hey, I'm Jerry Butler. I'm the Iceman. I don't care about any dynamite stuff. And then you do the Philadelphia show, where you have Teddy Pendergrass, who would say, I am the prettiest, the baddest, the most good-looking. Chicks will look at me, and I'm great. So, I mean, and then you'd have the Motown show, which I was MC of, and the Temptations would go, there's no group that can dance better than us, that can sing better than us. We don't care about any dynamite stuff. So it was never that kind of thing. I was always very secondary, because I was the youngest guy. We had Stevie Wonder's mom, who used to drive him behind us in her little station wagon. So we never, Jimmy Walker was never a big thing. He was just a little part of the MC work. That was it. That was
Who
my
created the catchphrase, Dynamite?
That was that was John Rich.
Yeah.
I did it one day in rehearsals, and John Rich says, "I like that dynamite thing." I said, "What dynamite thing?" He said, "You just did it." I said, "Oh, that was just fooling around." He says, John Rich said to me, he says, "This is going to be the biggest thing on this show." He said, "This will be the big." I said, "What?" He said, "The dynamite thing." He said, and he got up, a little fat guy, and showed me how to do it. And I said, "John, people are not that stupid. They'll never go for this." He says, "Yes, they will." And he put it out there, and Norman hated it.
Wow.
Just hated it. And everybody was threatening to walk. John says, "If he doesn't do it, I'm walking." Norman Lear says, "If he does it, I'm walking."
Damn.
So everybody was whatever. So we did it, and it became like Michael Buffer's thing, where he says, "Let's get ready to rumble." If you ever watched, you guys are too young, but when
No, we remember Michael Rumble, man. Yeah.
so whenever he would do a fight, and it would be like a Sugar Ray Leonard, he's won 97 knockouts. He's killed his last 10 opponents. He's the champion of the middleweight. He's the champion of the... And you'd hear, get ready to say, "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls across the world." And you could hear the people go, "Let's get ready to rumble."
He knows that too, by the way.
I know.
Yeah, he
Yes.
knows that.
Oh, yes. It's only $10,000 a pop if he does it. Nothing serious.
Damn.
That's all he gets. He gets $10,000 a pop. He does it all the time. So that's the way the dynamite thing rolled. But nobody was that enthused. I mean, I had guys like Steve Martin who was selling out 15,000 people, and you just go, "Boy, I would like to be like that."
Did you have any problem with women calling you back then?
Yes, definitely, without a doubt.
At the height of good times?
Oh no, you got to remember, I was with Richard Pryor. And Richard Pryor was a guy, and Freddie Prinze. Those two guys had all the women. I can tell you stories about Richard that you don't want to hear on the air, that you would go, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
Because women would
The floor is yours. Do tell.
No, I will not tell. I will not tell
this
the
guy.
two gigantic stories about Richard and Freddie. Freddie's the kind of guy, had so much confidence. If he saw her and we walked outside, he says, "I can get her." I go, "Freddie, she's like, she's a woman. She's going for the woman thing, to have her own thing." And he says, "I will get her." And you will go, at the end of the night, they're walking out together. You go, "Damn, how did Freddie pull this off?" He's that kind of guy. And he just believed, "I'm the prettiest, I'm the baddest, I'm the funniest, and I will get any chick I want."
That was his job, man.
Yeah, that's not your job. And it was just amazing. But yeah, so that was that.
Do y'all remember the first day on the set versus the last day?
Yes, I do. I remember the first day. It was interesting. I was really watching Esther and John, how they handled a lot of stuff, and I learned a lot. I really, really did. But I remember when, like, the first year, the first maybe couple of months, talking about women and JJ. Okay, I remember he said something to me like, what do you do? What do you get? What do you do with these women? What should I do? I said, the first thing you should do is, when you have a girl, you need to buy her a little jewelry. I'm telling on you. And he said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, buy some, jewelry and stuff and break it in that way." And so he said, "Okay." So that lunchtime, he went to Farmer's Market and he bought some jewelry. And he came back. He said, "How does this look? What's this about?" And it was a turquoise piece, with the silver around. It was this big. I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "What, you dating a giant? What are you doing? Come on."
Right.
I'm trying.
So I said, "No, go back over there, take that back, and get some fine jewelry. Really gold, a little
Dainty,
something."
like
Yeah.
really pretty.
And so that's what he did. And so to this very day, if you date Jimmy Walker, you're going to get some jewelry. I'm telling you.
Right.
And you known as a trick out here, man, Mr. Walker.
But he does it.
How was the last day on set?
The last day, wow. For me, well, it was like a little unreal, because I came to Hollywood right into a show. So I didn't know what it was like living outside of that. Here in California, in California. So for me, it was very different. It was like, is this the end? Is this really the end? what am I going to do when I get up tomorrow, kind of thing. So that's how it felt to me, the ending.
What about you?
Good Times ended on March the 8th, which was a Thursday in 1979. We had already braced ourselves for it because you could feel the momentum of the production was starting to lose its pace.
Mm-hmm.
So I already knew I had to graduate from high school, and I already knew I had my ideas to go to college and to travel. So thereby, I used the rest of my 20s traveling to East and West Africa, primarily to Sudan, Ethiopia, and Egypt. And by doing that consecutively as a historian, I read the information before I went on the journey. So my affinity with the wonderful monuments that I saw, the parallels in Egypt with the parallel the pyramids in Egypt and in Mexico are phenomenal because there was a wonderful connection between those two cultures where they did not destroy each other, but they complemented each other. And you could see that the Earth, Wind & Fire has a wonderful song, It's in the Stone. So in the stone, the people left how they looked and that we were here, and this is what we did while we were on the planet. So it was a phenomenon for me to not only just theoretically do the work, but to physically go and see the monuments for myself.
I wonder why it felt like they could have showed y'all outside of the projects, because the last episode, everybody did get out the projects.
Yeah.
They went to go move in the same building.
Yeah.
A better building. So they could have showed that.
Yeah.
But what's done is done. The past is the past, Charlamagne. So you don't want to regress. You want to progress. And people have constantly asked us to do a reboot of Good Times.
Yeah.
However, you've lost some of the major primary characters.
That's right.
So it wouldn't work to do that anymore. So you come up with new ideas. Like my new television series is entitled Grandma's Hands, and I deal with 5 generations of African women from the age of 13 to the age of 98, along with my wonderful co-writers, Mr. Gregory A. Holtz, beautiful sister named Janine, and my young sister Vicky. So as a team, a quorum of 4, we've been able to write some wonderful scripts. And all things in time, I could show you better than I can tell you. And I just hope that the opportunity comes where I can present this particular production so that people can experience us from another perspective, as I do as a writer. I've completed my autobiography in 5 volumes. Years ago, I had a dialogue with August Wilson, and he was one of the very rare writers who had a play written for every decade of the last century that we've gone through. But my point being, I asked him his technique and what should I do when I want to write my autobiography. And I got a lot of advice from my good friend, Mr. Irving Panton. He said, do it and I'll help you copy the books. So I began on a wonderful journey of getting wonderful information, and I didn't know that there was so much information on the work that I did in my early theater years. My point is that I had a resource with Schomburg. I had a resource with Lincoln Center, and the people who were there in that area, the librarians, so to speak, they were very gracious to me. So it helped me to complete 5 complete volumes of my autobiography. I taught at a child development for 5 years, so I'm the author of 20 children's books as well. So as a musician, I still sing, I do my voice. I hope that people will continue to like the work that not just myself does, but BernNadette and Jimmy too. We literally have never stopped being friends, and that's why we're still here.
That's amazing.
How did y'all feel about the Good Times cartoon on Netflix?
Well, that's BernNadette's thing. She'll tell you.
How did you feel, Miss BernNadette? Because they keep calling it a reboot, but that's not a.
No, that's not it at all.
Yeah.
No, that's not it at all. I think that our audience missed something. They missed what happened to us. It's always they want the completion of it. It never really happened, so far. My thing about the animation was this, that, I know that Jimmy Walker came to them and he presented a cartoon about 5 years before this one, really? And it was the all of us, the way we are in a animation, and we have our same voices and everything like that, and they didn't bite that, but later on came up with they're going to do an animation, and I remember my manager called them and said, well, what are they going to, are we going to be in it or not? So the way they described the animation to us was this. It was going to be a modern day, progression of what everything is going to be for the Good Times family. So, fine. But they asked Jimmy and I to do a tiny little part, but it sounded okay. We didn't see the scripts. So Jimmy did a part, I did a little part. My character's name is Peaches. She's like a project lady, that's whatever. But when it came out, when the trailer came out, we saw it and everybody was like, no. You don't have a cracked baby in the mother's arms. You don't do that. So, and I remember having an interview with the singer, Jim Gilstrap, a year before. And he was saying, there are some lyrics that they took out. So I said, what were the lyrics? And he said, well, they say, roaches roaming the hallway, and the landlord lives on the other side of town or something like that. He said that they took it out because 50 years ago now, they thought that would be offensive to black people. Okay? But 50 years later, you have two roaches singing in the shower.
Lord have mercy.
They singing the song Good Times. So I'm like, this is not it. I'm sorry, I know people have, want to write it at, they want to do this and that, but you have to do it right. You have to represent it correctly. So to me, it was not represented correctly, and I had to say that,
I haven't watched it. Mr. Carter?
I actually was quite disappointed with the actors who took the time to sign on to that project. These are actors and artists and comedians that I really had a high regard for. I won't use the past tense with them right now, but I'm disappointed at the fact that they did that. When I did take a quick review of this particular rubbish that I saw, I was contacted by some media outlets from my point of view, but I refused to dignify it with a response. And I'm just pretty much disappointed with the artist who signed on to it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think anybody ever saw it. I mean, I know Seth MacFarlane, to me, is very, very funny, but this is not his bag. It would be like saying, hey, we're doing Romeo and Juliet, and you know who we hired? J.J. Walker and LaWanda Page.
That's funny.
And you go, really? Wow.
That's great, Jimmy. That's a good analysis.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, Seth is, I love all his stuff. It's racist, it's terrible, it's fantastic, it kills me.
But it's funny.
It's funny. Yeah. But he's not right for this. And Steph Curry, I know he's been watching LeBron James, and he sees LeBron James has projects. Look, let me tell you something. I'm from New York. I played basketball against Nate Archibald. You guys are too young to remember Nate Archibald, but he's a big star.
We know Nate Archibald.
I played against Nate Archibald, and he only scored 63 on us 3 times that we played them. He scored 61, 63, and 63. Look, let me tell you something. It'd be like me going to Steph and say, look, I played against Nate Archibald. I want to be on the Golden State Warriors. And they go, why? I play against Nate Archibald. I belong on the team. Come on. But no, he's just the wrong guy to be in this.
So y'all don't like the Good Times reboot?
To say that?
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Right.
It's crazy though, 50 years of Good Times. I'm shocked like nobody did a documentary or some type of, reunion show. Like y'all didn't get approached about none of that?
No.
The anthology that I did write, it wouldn't be a product commercially right now, again, because of the losses that we had.
But we
the
did have a
people
movie
that we worked
that
with.
we're going to put together, and we
Yeah.
had all the characters. It just didn't.
They are now ancestors, so we
This
have
is
to
Brett Miller,
keep living.
who works with Norman, and that's the guy who kind of gaboshed us.
Yeah.
And that was it. I mean, that's the way. Because when I took it around, everybody I talked to says, "Well, do you own the rights?" And we go, "No." And they said, "Well, nothing we can do for you." And these are all friends of mine. Yeah. So that's the way it was. I just think that they didn't want us involved, and they achieved their goal.
Yeah.
Damn. Well, we love y'all.
All right, guys.
And we celebrate y'all.
Yes,
Absolutely.
our fans really kept writing us and telling us how much they loved us, and they did not like the animation. They respect us in so many different ways. So we still got our satisfaction out of it.
Right.
Absolutely. Well,
And
we
when the
appreciate
people
you.
don't like it, watch out.
That's right.
Because they're,
go
they're
ahead.
writing and what they think people want to see. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
it's a
And
disconnect.
not-
It's a
definitely-
disconnect because that's not
definitely
what
a
the people
disconnect.
really want to see.
But yeah, but you have like those pockets of people, like people trying to appeal to what media is like feeding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all that ghetto rad shit, Roches singing and shit, like what how they
See
would
it, yeah.
view.
But all of that rubbish tends to dumb people down, you know.
Absolutely.
And that's what
How they would
people
like to
will
keep
fight
us.
for. You know, it's like, hey, don't try to make me smart.
Well, I
It took
guess-
a long time to be this dumb.
Yeah.
So don't try to make me want to think. And that's the
Well,
in my critical analysis, people must think for themselves and solve their own problems.
I guess
when
they-
you do that, you can help other people.
yeah. I guess they felt that 50 years later, no one would notice. We can make them look like the way we want them to look. I don't know.
I've never craved for attention like that. I live a isolated life to the degree that I live alone, but I'm not lonely. You know, I have a loving family that I speak to practically every week, and by virtue of that, my sense of grounding is a lot different than some people. You know,
Which was portrayed in the original Good Times.
Yeah.
yeah, I am to be taken seriously
Yeah.
because life is serious.
Yeah.
What do y'all want the legacy of Good Times to ultimately be?
I hope that we made people enjoy the process of a family that was able to stay cohesive and live together in spite of the financial conditions that we had a tendency to be a part of. But the fact that we tried to make as many people happy as possible without placating them or patronizing them. We just did our job as artists.
And Good Times solved a lot of problems for people, showed people how, if you didn't have a father, John Amos was a father type to you, your mom, so we did a lot for our people, I think, and I would like it to stay that way.
And it helped us grow and stay grounded more than anything. I like that part about it, because I thoroughly enjoyed going to work. I was devastated, of course, when John Amos's character left. But beyond that, because I'm glad because my biological father, Ralph, and John Amos got along like brothers. So it was, I had co-fathers, so to speak. But the truth of the matter is that I think that we left a paramount impact on people because, again, we're bombarded with positive energy. I know I am. And being that I'm able to walk the streets of Brooklyn on my own, I'm able to greet some of our people. I don't walk around the streets saying, hey, look at me, I'm here. No, if anything, I know when to shut down. That's what I love about Jimmy Walker. As a comedian, he's not always on. When Jimmy's locked into what he's going to do, he's going to do it. But other than that, no, you won't get him to say dynamite because he's already done that. You can see it in the reruns. When you want to play that, you can do it like that.
Yeah.
But I just think that working with our people here has been a reward for me because I've learned a tremendous amount of information from BernNadette and from Jimmy.
What do you want the legacy to be, Mr. Walker?
I really hadn't thought about it until Norman Lear died. And then everybody started jumping up and down about Norman dying and stuff like that. It really, I hate to say it, it never crossed my mind. I never ever thought about it. Just never in there.
Yeah.
Too busy thinking about them girls calling you back.
Girls and getting my shots on when I was doing the David Letterman show, which is my opinion, my alleged best work. I loved it. It was fabulous, because Letterman started out with me as a writer. And, my writing staff, I'm so proud of all those guys. It's the old man that's dying, but it's them. I mean, I had Jay Leno and Louis Anderson and Elaine Boozler, who to me represents the good in women's comedy. She has the greatest stuff because women now, it's a little rough out here what women are doing, but Elaine wrote great, clean, solid, monster jokes, man. And this is a perfect example. You won't see this kind of joke done anymore, but this is the kind of joke she wrote. She says, men are so hypocritical. They want you to scream that this is the best you've ever had while swearing you've never done this before.
Dang.
Now, see, that to me is a joke. That's a solid, killer, monster, clean joke.
Because that is very relatable.
Well, please, I'm sorry.
All those people were on your writing staff?
Yeah.
Jay Leno,
Jay Leno, Louis Anderson, Elaine Boozler, Ralphie May.
Wow.
Byron Allen started when he was 14 years old.
Yeah.
Oh, good times?
No, he started writing for me as doing jokes for me.
Okay, got you.
I always tell the same thing, but it's true. He was doing comedy, claiming he was 18 years old at the store. Okay, got on. One of my writers saw him. He says, "Do you write?" He says, "Yeah, I do write." He says, "Could you write for Jimmy Walker?" He says, "JJ, yeah." He says, "Oh yeah, I could do it." So he calls me up. And I got Leno at the house, and I got Louis at the house, and I got David Letterman at the house, and I got Ralphie May at the house. And I said, well, since Wayne, the joke train, says you're good, why don't you come over to the house and we'll see what you got? He says, I'll come over, but I have to wait for my mom. I said, well, why? What's happening? He said, my mom has to drive me over.
Wow.
I said, drive you over? He says, yeah, I'm 14 years old. I said, okay, because his mom worked for NBC. She was on staff over there as a PR gal, right?
Yeah.
So he comes over. First joke Byron ever wrote for me. 14 years old. His first joke. He says, white people, black people are much different. He says white people go to a movie, they don't like it. They say, I would like my money back. He says, black people go to a movie. He says, I didn't like this movie. I want everybody's money back. 14, he wrote that joke.
Wow.
See, that's the kind of stuff I look for.
Got you.
And now he just mentioned it, but do you get tired of saying Dynamite? Do people come up to you?
No, don't do it.
No,
Don't
I'm
do it.
not going to ask him to say it.
No,
I'm not going to ask him
no.
to say it. I would never ask him to say that. But I would say, do you get tired? Because I mean, people must walk through the street.
People don't really ask because a comedy crowd is different than a TV crowd. You know, they come, if that's all I did, people go, well, it wasn't worth paying to see this guy because that's all he did. But when you see my act, people go, you know, I think some of the best comments I've ever got, my guys who are valets, because I travel every week to do the road, they go, hey, man, we saw that special you did with Michael Winslow. You know, we always knew you were funny. This is much better than I ever thought that you had. I didn't know you had this kind of stuff. That to me is like a great compliment. I like that.
Yeah, it just feel like a white man asking you to dance. Like, dance. Say Dynamite.
Mr. Bojangles.
No, I don't. You know, people ask, but I don't really do it. But I never did it in my act until recently. I found a spot for it, and it works great. So. It's a very good piece. I have to admit that I wrote it myself. Thank you. I can't really do it now, and it's not dirty. I don't do any dirt or anything like that. That's another thing. I grew up in a non-dirt area, and there's only, I'm not kidding, allegedly there's 9,000 comics making 25,000 or more, up to the Dave Chappelle 200,000 a night kind of level. I would say there's no more, other than the religious guys, the Ricky Smiley type of cats, I would say there's no more than 25 clean guys in America. And girls, I am stunned. I don't think there's
Jess
any.
Hilarious is a clean comic.
Well,
No, she's not.
No, she's not.
Y'all can't even go with a joke. Shut up.
I don't think. I to me, I have.
Still would call me a liar. I guess she's lying.
I got Wendy Liebman. I got Ellen DeGeneres. I got Elaine Boozler, and I'm going to add on 3 more just for the kicks that maybe I left out. I don't think there's 10 clean women comics in America. Dang. I don't think there are. I mean, maybe there's somebody I'm missing. I have not met them. It's and see, when I started, women were the cleanest. They were talking about their husbands or their boyfriends. And I think the joke I just did by Elaine, or if you look at Ellen, that to me is the hardest stuff to do. And women now, they're talking about their sexual act from the beginning. I met this guy and I went home and I did this and I did that and he couldn't do. You go, hey, easy. I don't want to know about all that. You know, it's that kind of stuff like
Even
that.
if they call you back, you don't want to know about all that.
No, not in a public setting.
Oh, got you.
They do it on stage. I mean, they talk about it on stage where you just go, oh my God, come on.
Is that all you can do to be funny?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
okay.
it. You know, and see, I tell comics all the time, whether they're women or men, if you do the F word or whatever, if you only do it once, it will have more impact than just saying it all the time.
Constantly.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. If you say it once or twice, it will have tremendous impact. You know, I always bring up, and I don't mean to curse about anything, but I always bring up Cosby, who I think is the most devastating thing I've gone through with the Cosby thing. Because I opened for Cosby for like 2-3 years, and I knew that he had a lot of women. That was the thing. But see, to me, this is Camille's problem. It's not our problem. It's Camille's problem. And I think what killed Cosby, and I say this all the time, was that he got on and he stood on top of a mountain saying, I'm America's dad, follow me, I'm the guy, pull your pants up, don't use language. I think, and I've always used this line, it's true, I think if he hadn't done that, if he hadn't been such the guy to just say you can't do this, I think it would have gone away. And I use this. If it had been Mick Jagger, nobody would have said anything. Because, you know, Mick Jagger has had more women than Cosby's had. But you'll never know about it because you go, it's the Rolling Stones, man. What do you expect? But Cosby gives us, I would never do that. I raised my kids. I've done my... So you got to come down off the mountain sometimes, unless you're totally innocent.
You agree with that take, Ms. BernNadette? You agree with that take?
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
You know?
Well, we appreciate you guys for joining us. 50
Hold on,
years
hold
of
on.
good times.
Yo, the lyrics to the theme song. Y'all all know that?
No,
right?
I don't know it. I think Ralph knows it.
Just looking out of the window, watching the asphalt grow, seeing how it all looks tear me down. But you're keeping your head above water, making a way when you can. Temporary layoffs, good times. Easy credit rip-off, good time. Scratching and surviving,
Good time.
good times. Hanging in a child line.
No.
Oh, it's
Good
hanging in the
time.
child line?
That's
No,
how I
in the-
interpret
no,
it.
it's
I have the
I
written
thought it was
lyrics
hanging in and
still.
jiving.
Yes, it is. Hanging in
You have
and jiving.
two versions.
Hanging in and jiving.
Hanging in and jiving, but also I have on document in my archive, hanging in the child
Isn't that
line.
something?
So they have
They said it that way so long,
They have
so
both
now-
versions of it. However, it really caught on the way that the wonderful Janae Dubois wrote the soundtrack for Moving On Up for the Jeffersons. Janae Dubois is the writer and the musician and the vocalist that sings that song. So that in itself, when you deal with theme songs, and when we were coming on, y'all were gracious enough to play it for us. So it was a nice way to walk into your sound studio, and we thank you.
So the mystery continues. We still don't know if it's hanging in the child line or
It's
hanging in the jiving.
It's hanging
Google
in
it.
and, it's hanging in and
Hanging in
jiving.
and jiving.
Yeah, that's what it is.
BernNadette and I are going to have this going on for a while.
Obviously.
Well, we appreciate you guys.
Jim Gilstrap, the one who sung it, told me. He said it. He said it was
Okay.
hanging in and jiving.
Hanging in the job.
So that's what it was. But it came off, I don't know if it was the enunciation of it or not, but it came off as hanging in a child line. It sounds that way, but it really was hanging in and jiving.
And there's a second verse that people have never heard that goes to the same song. So the information that I do have, it has what I'm trying to say.
That's the little
She said
roaches.
that's the roaches.
That's the roaches
that's the
singing
roaches.
in the shower.
So
50
you guys
years
have
of good
been
times.
wonderful. I thank
you.
Man, a
for,
pleasure, man.
thinking
Thank
enough of
you.
us.
All right.
Again, to your listening audience, we thank you again for a wonderful 50 years. May you be blessed by every breath you breathe and every beat of your heart.
Thank you very
Love
much.
you.
That's
All
right.
three.
It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning. Thank you.
Wake that ass up.
In the morning.
The Breakfast Club.